Welcome to Rethinking Balance Sheets.
Woi, bro,
Apa dia?
aku message kau 50 kali, tak balas.
Alah bro,
Bro,
aku tak
ni?
ada time lah bro message. Aku sekarang tengah Nicole bro. Nicole lah itu dia in sekarang. Tengah trending tengah kacau.
Kau cakap apa? Apa tu?
Nicole, kau tak tahu
Nicole?
Nicole? Google kau tahu?
Ah,
Nicole kau tak tahu? Tak, Nicole app untuk belajar bro. Semua tengah belajar guna
Oh,
Nicole sekarang. CEO
ilmu.
semua tengah guna Nicole.
share sikit lah.
Boleh bro, kau tengok macam ni bro.
Okey.
Kau kalau kau lembab, kau kena Nicole bro.
Memang aku lembab sikit sebenarnya.
Bro, kalau kau nak laju, kau nak top, kau nak jadi CEO, kau kena guna Nicole. Kau tahu kena pergi mana? Digital.dynamic.org. 200 je bro tahun.
Aku buat tu aku tak lembab dah.
Tak tahu bro capacity kau macam mana.
Oh,
Tapi aku
macam tu.
rasa Nicole ni boleh tolong kau lah bro. Confirm.
Okey.
Ha,
Berapa?
RM200 je bro tahun.
Boleh lah duit raya pakai ya.
Selamba bro. Ni kau tengok ni bro. Percaya bro, kau tengok ni. Ini daripada Howard bro. Power bro.
memang cantik.
Apa ni? Jangan ambil akunya.
Okey.
Aduh.
Sorry. Aku teruja sangat lah.
Ni tak apa kita tunggu sini.
Welcome, everyone, and welcome to Rethinking Balance Sheets. And every Friday at 10 a.m. in the morning, with your nice cup of coffee, we have a conversation on your organization, transformation, and understanding the balance sheet and how it affects you. And always joining me every week is our good and faithful captain of the ship, Ravi Navaratnam from Sage 3 Capital. Ravi, it's been a couple of weeks now. We've taken a break last week. We decided to have a good Haraya break. And we are back re-exploring balance sheets and what it means for companies, especially in this time of turbulence, uncertainty, volatility. I'm just recapping VUCA, right? But it's a very I mean, interesting is a mild way of saying it, right? It's a very turbulent time, I guess, where we really don't know what's happening. I mean, we for those in Malaysia, I think we are seeing a significant spike in COVID cases and possibility of a full lockdown, whatever that means, and numerous other things that are permeating the background. India, that's a good. I mean, there's some good news, ceasefire in the Middle East, so that's one bright spot to this Friday morning. But Ravi, what's cooking on your counter today?
Well, first of all, Selamat Hari Raya. I think this year, like all of my Muslim friends, I said, I'm a bit heavy on the Selamat, less on the Raya. Part of light on the Raya, so heavy on the Selamat, light on the Raya, kind of Hari Raya. So, but never mind. I think a lot of people did spend time with the family. One of my kind, Dr. Zarina, has sent me her. I couldn't go to her house, but she sent me food yesterday, so that's great. We're looking forward to enjoying that. Well, in terms of the show, I think I'm really glad we did it. It's episode 10 already, this one, so it's a little bit of a milestone today. Episode 10. Two things I'd also say is, I think the part that we really wanted to get really discussing is, I know we spoke about banks, we spoke about MDV and all, very good stuff, Leap, etc. But I think the stuff that's really cooking is the fintech space and the technology players coming in on the B2B solutions. On that note, that's why we got a really exciting show. We've got Privasia's boss, Puva, in here today, and he's going to start off. We've also got another show from one of the leading firms in Indonesia doing that as well on this space. So it's really, if just coming back to just to recap why we say rethinking balance sheet. This is obviously the financing side of the balance sheet. You've got working capital assets on the asset side, and on the credit side, for those who are interested in accounting, it's the credit side, and that's the funding. So I think really the person who's really here and learn about what at least this product in Malaysia helping businesses finance. We've had Puva and his Finanshere, which is really worth listening to.
Sure. So let's bring Puvanesan Subenthiran up. Puva, welcome to our show. Super glad to have you with us. As always, it's maybe before we even start, maybe we can briefly introduce yourself and Privasia also, since you are the group CEO of Privasia. Just let's just showcase your title, your big title here, so everyone can see Puva's credentials. And just before before we start, I mean, there's already a ole 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 to Puva from Sharul. So we're getting some oles coming in. So Puva, looks like you've got a fan club. So welcome to the show, Puva, and maybe just briefly tell us a bit about yourself.
Hey, good morning, gents. Thank you for having me on the show. So Privasia, we've been around for slightly more than 20 years. What we started off doing was, we did SI, system integration jobs like any other IT company, but we built a e-procurement platform. We've been operating, of course, it's changed. The Procure here that was built 20 years ago is very different from the Procure here now. We started off as a normal PRPO tool, and then we went and started doing sourcing. We became a cloud-based. We built a marketplace, and we moved the journey and wanted to go from source all the way to payment. During this journey, we realized a very important thing for SMEs, which is a big portion of our population in the market space that we have. They always have cash flow needs, just like any other business, and that's when we started exploring building a supply chain financing product, and that's how Finanshere came to be.
Okay, and today we our topic is our fintech finance platforms, the savior of the crisis. So I mean, that's the topic. So maybe we should start with that as a question. Your thoughts on fintech platforms, and especially in this term in times of crisis. I mean, it seems to be one of those things that are that seem to be continually going against the tide. What are your thoughts in terms of fintech platforms being saviors in this times of crisis?
So firstly, I have to say, all digital platforms are savior to this crisis, right? Can you imagine if we were asked to ask anyone the question 2 years ago, could they do anything digitally? Would they do anything digitally? You have fans and you have foes, right?
Yep.
And you ask them today, can you imagine doing anything
non-digitally
outside non-digital? They'll be like, no way, right? So the thing is, I think all digital platforms actually saved all of us. But the fintech platform has a very special place because it's become an enabler for all the other digital platforms, right? It's the good thing is a lot of people started using fintech platforms. A lot of people started thinking of what kind of fintech solutions they wanted to digitalize a few years ago. The crisis definitely gave it a new sort of a pivot, right? So the fintech platforms definitely benefited from the crisis. I think all digital platforms saved all of us, because I think if not all of us, we're going bonkers right now, right?
Yep. And I guess when you say fintech platforms are critical, partly because of the payment pieces, or the transactions can't be go through because unless you have that payment gateways and basically the channels that flow in, from all the way from making a sale all the way down to delivering the product. Talk us through that a little bit. I mean, when you say fintech, right? What you mean in terms of the range? Because I think people get misconstrued by what fintech is. Maybe help us a little bit in terms of understanding what fintech actually means.
So fintech, I think if you ask anyone what the initial thought of fintech are, a lot of them will say payment gateways, payment solutions.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what touches all of us daily.
Correct.
Right?
But it's much more than that, right?
It's much more than that. So, for example, there are financing solutions. There are solutions for people to invest. We always think about people who need cash. There are people who have cash lying around and they need to invest. There are also tools
like Ravi, huh?
Yeah. There are also tools to verify, because if you're virtually moving funds all over the place, you need the KYC and know your customer, all sorts of security tools. There are also various verification tools. So fintech is a very loosely used word, right? It's a huge space, and there are a lot of players who they need to find their niche. If you think of it, the very basic, we all talk about fintech a few years ago, right? I would think credit card terminals and point of sales machine were, fintech tools, but in their time, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the thing is that it's quite interesting, and then of course there's also the more complex side of fintech where people talk about virtual currency and things like that. Yeah. So it's something that I know a lot of people think is very exciting, and I think it's fat. I think it's a very loosely, generally used term, fintech.
And for
Maybe, Roshan, if I just interject here a little bit of
sure.
history. I mean, when you use the word technology, doesn't have to be something which is electronic or a computer. The technology of the 15th and 16th century were these letters of credits and stuff like that, which was invented, contracts, which actually enabled trade to take off. So I suppose, we are back at hopefully another huge revolution in terms of the broader world of the technology. But I think today's discussion is more on the digital way of doing it.
Yeah. And I guess for you guys in Privasia, you're kind of a fintech for companies, right? I mean, to some extent, you're a B2B setup, right? Essentially.
We're essentially a B2B setup. I mean,
and
we are pure B2B setup at the moment. Yeah.
Okay. Yep. And if you think about financing for companies, I mean, working capital financing will be a big part of this, right? I would assume so, lah. I mean, what's your involvement in this working capital financing piece? Is that part of your portfolio?
So, as I said, we started doing B2B. We had this e-procurement portal where we saw that we had a lot of value is to work on. So we were very keen on working capital financing, and it's something that we've been, trying to explore for the last 3 or 4 years. Where we thought we had the strength was in supply chain financing, because we knew we had a big database of suppliers, and we understood the trades, and we could actually track the trades from origination all the way to delivery, right? So we felt that we have that very, very valuable information. What we did then is we spoke to some partners who come from the finance sector, and we're looking at different. First we looked at becoming a solution provider to other fintech companies, and then it evolved to a point where we said, hey, why don't we build this ourselves, right? So we do supply chain financing. Basically, it's invoice financing at the moment. That's the space that we play in, right?
Okay. And I mean, is there other things that you do that you offer, in terms of product offerings to businesses?
So we do e-procurement. That's our staple. We do a lot of services. We build digital platforms for businesses. We have cloud and also enterprise port solutions, which we build, port management system. So we got various different products, but I think the e-procurement solution is the one that gave birth to us going into fintech. Right?
Maybe if I give some context to it, yeah, and maybe it's also from the tech side. So if I got a big order for, say, 500,000 for somebody to build a system, but I got to go and buy some computers, I got to buy some servers, I might have to outsource some of my technology to an outsourcing partner in the US, etc. And say, look, Puva, I need my margin here is about 100,000. I could come up with about another 100,000. Can you put in the 300,000? What do you do from here?
Yeah. So how we do it is like this. We understand a lot of trades from the time the buyer sources, right? Yeah. So we know that it was efficiently, someone went and procured efficiently. Then we know that there are various processes. He got all the approvals. He has the money to pay for it. And then, he picks the best guy, right? So we've always operated in that place. He picks the best guy, he awards the job to him. Now, what we realize is the supplier has issues also, right? To deliver the project, I have cash flow issues, right? So sometimes what they do is they find a way to deliver, then they got to offer the customer credit terms.
Yeah.
Right? Now, the thing is, sometimes they deliver in part. Where we play in is, if you've already delivered and you've got an invoice, that means we know it's a trade accepted by the customer. You've already delivered. We finance that part, so he can go and finance the next phase.
So you get early payment,
So even if I
Almost
set
like
up my mobilization
almost like
invoice,
a receiver. Yeah.
If I say
Yes.
on the 500,000 project, I said I've got Puva got the 100,000 mobilization invoice here. Can I take that to you and say, okay, Puva, give me 80% of that?
Yes, in simple, simple terms, yes. Basically, that's what
Yeah.
you do.
No, of course, credit and all that. A lot more
Yeah.
checks involved. Yeah. Sorry, Roshan. I
Yeah.
cut you off.
No,
So
no, 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 no.
The great
Go
thing
ahead.
about
Go ahead.
you don't have to call Puva, right? You just go online
Yeah.
and you say, these are all my documents, and everything is done. And a lot of people have problem because they go and speak to banks, or they speak. The KYC takes a long time.
Yep.
Our difference is, a lot of these people we've already done the KYC for, and we continuously do, but we actually know the trade is valid.
Yeah.
We know all we've from the source, it was done efficiently, and we're very comfortable financing those. So we then put in our platform. We've got a bunch of funders who work with us, and they pick the trade and they go with
Okay,
it.
is that meaning that I really have to get onto your procurement system first?
Okay, for phase one, we're offering it to our people on our procurement system, the vendors on our procurement.
That's fair enough.
Yeah. Phase two, we are actually exploring how to do it outside the procurement system. Okay, in simple terms, in the procurement system, it's very, very secure. So even when funders come in, they're willing to give extremely good rates, right? Because they know it's a valid trade. They know when they're going to collect the money. It's very easy for them. So outside the procurement system, we are talking to some of the funders who want that option. We are building the KYC and the processes for ourselves.
Actually,
So eventually
go
we
ahead.
will.
Go ahead, Ravi.
Sorry.
Yeah, sorry. I think it sounds like a really good thing, and I'm sure this business is going to take off in a big way. I suppose, as all businesses, as these new models, they take some time to get it sorted out. But is it a sales issue, or have you seen huge volumes, or what is it? Is it marketing that people don't know it out there? What's holding us back?
So okay, I think there are a few sides to it, right?
Yeah.
So especially for companies that offer the similar offering to us, sometimes it's a learning issue, and sometimes it's not from the funder, right? Because the funder is just picking the most efficient way to lend money.
Right.
Sometimes it's vendors, right? Whether they're comfortable borrowing from this platform, right? And also they
borrower side less these days, lah. I think other than going to an along, break your leg in one thing or two. I think other than that, I mean, you just know the pain out there in the SME sector. That's a given. That's a ticket.
Yeah.
That's a given. So people are looking for financing. That's not for debate.
Yeah.
So also the other thing is this: some smaller SMEs, they may be uncomfortable with, I'm going to give up all this information to go and borrow money, but sometimes I don't see the guy, right? Is it secure? So there is also that. It's a learning curve, but it's picking up. I think all of this.
I think as time goes on, I mean, we give all of our data to Google and Facebook and all this stuff. So I mean, at some point in time, all these things will sort itself out. But I mean, so for now, you're very focused on the invoice facility, generally invoice financing. But are you planning to offer a full range of banking services like OD and RC and LC and BA and maybe the TRs at some point in time, or is that the focus primarily going to be on invoice financing?
Okay, at the moment it's invoice financing. We've hired a CEO who's an ex-banker. We are exploring providing, I wouldn't say the whole range. We are exploring providing products which we can provide a special niche to. So for example, supply chain financing, we told you why we picked that. We know the trades very well. So we are exploring, and we are talking to, some of our funders are actually talking to us about doing that. So we are exploring. But the thing is, let's focus on getting this, supply chain, the invoice financing trajectory first, and then we will move on to the next.
Okay.
I think there's
Okay.
a big space for supply chain financing.
Yeah. So, just very quickly, Lily sends you some kittens, I think, looks like. So that's Lily sending you some kittens, Puva. And there's
Yeah.
a LinkedIn user that says, yeah, I mean, there's still some trust issues, I think, that need to be ironed out based on what you were saying. Lah.
Yeah.
Yeah, back to what we were talking about. I mean, you mentioned earlier a bit that you were using the Islamic mode of financing for your product, right?
Yes.
Why did you choose that Islamic mode of financing?
Okay. A few reasons. Number one is we wanted, if we were going into the fintech space, we wanted a structure where we are comfortable, right? And I think after exploring different structures, to start it, we thought the Islamic structure is the best for us. The other thing is the profile of a lot of the funders that have been talking to us. I think they are very comfortable with the Islamic structure. So, from our basic assessment of the market, the SMEs that are in our platform are very comfortable with that structure. So because sometimes when they go and borrow from a digital platform, a lot of people are very sophisticated nowadays. They worry about source of funds, right? So when it's an Islamic structure, they are a bit more comfortable. So that is why we pick starting off with the Islamic structure.
Got it. Okay. Makes sense. Ravi, we're gonna just take a quick short break right now, and we'll be back in about 30 to 40 seconds. Right. So we'll just take a quick break and let's check this video out. Welcome back to Rethinking Balance Sheets. We are talking to Puva here on financing or fintech financing, especially invoice financing that is being run by the organization. And for those who missed, that was Nicole, the most in Asia at least, the one of the only learning experience platforms that is out in Asia where you get your personalized learning. So you can go out to nicole.app and check it out. So go to nicole.app. I think that's right there. Nicole.app and check it out. So with that, Puva, we're talking a little bit about fintechs as the savior in this crisis. I mean, not just fintechs you added. It's every digital platform to some extent has been helping us to navigate and survive and somehow not go into major depression, loneliness, and all kinds of issues as we cuddle ourselves up in our houses and so on and so forth, right? And one of the things I think that's interesting about your finance offering, right? I know you mentioned this before, but maybe you can help when you say you differentiate yourself from bank financing because you're very niche and you're very specialized. What else differentiates you from bank financing?
Okay, so the thing is we know the customer, we know a lot of the. For the current pool, we know the borrowers very well. We know some of the customers very well. We trade. We can track the trade from source, right? Not just the financing part. So the thing is, I think our turnaround time is definitely faster, right? We are trying to also.
And your turnaround time is what, like 48 hours or something, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Can do it in 48 hours. Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, I think some of the funders that we have on our platform, they like some of the SMEs that have, because they know that these people trade very often and they deliver good work and all, right? So I think even the 48 hours for borrowers with better track record, and we have more data, we can even cut that shorter, right?
Wow.
So the thing is, the whole thing with this is, I think banks will always have to do their checks when the application comes in, right? We get a lot of the information, we already have it, and we keep it. So whenever they want to execute borrowing, it's very easy to verify and check things.
Sure. And I guess the million. Yeah, go ahead, Ravi.
Sorry, go on. Oh, maybe
No, go ahead.
The point that I would say, we're talking about differentiating bank financing. I mean, we went through that whole series on bank financing. I think maybe there's a difference in the credit evaluation here because banks are about, okay, what was your previous financial record? Here's the gearing ratio. Is it yours more basically on knowing the transaction itself? So it's actually perhaps, a completely different way of evaluation.
So we do both.
Yeah.
Right. We do a bit of both, but the additional thing we do is also because we know the buyers.
That's right.
Right. And if you look at SMEs and all, a lot of them have issues. Sometimes it is the buyer's ability to be able to pay and settle this the outstanding. We know the buyers very well as well. So when the guy comes with the invoice, we always assess the borrower's track record. We assess the trade, and then we can see the buyers, right? And the other thing is, okay, I don't want this to sound negative. Banks are a bit more risk averse. Not
True.
okay.
True.
Not to say that we are, we willing to take more risk. The thing is, I think we get a lot more data faster, right? And we have the data,
Sure.
and we have the AI and the big data tools to keep analyzing, and we internally, even in our procurement platform, we score. We have a sort of scoring for vendors and buyers. So we've always been doing it. So we have this information.
I suppose this is one of the usual things about big data and stuff. The more you do, it's just going to get better and better and better, right?
Yes, but the thing is, of course, we eventually we go to the proper approvals, and we have the independence on our on Finanshere's board as well, who check us and make sure that we're always honest, and we're an enabler, right? We just want to make sure we are a valuable enabler as long as we address all the trust issues, we do it efficiently, and we bring the cost down for everybody.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So I think those are the three things we focus on.
So I guess the big million dollar question, I guess, to most people listening in was like, so tell us what is the fees, what are the rates, what's the structure, what's the tenure? I mean, I'm excited. I'm excited. I want to know more, but let me know what the fees are. Eh? Would you mind sharing that?
Puva looks very like a nice guy. I hope he's not an along there.
Yeah. So I think So the fees, if they go to our website, finanshere.com, right? They have very general, there's a small platform fee, there's a finance fee and all. But actually, what happens is, what we're trying to do is, as you become a better borrower, we're bringing down the fees, right? So we were trying to make it as competitive as possible, right? So the thing is, rather than me tell everyone what the fee is, please log into Finanshere, get your credit assessment. We give you the best fee for you.
All right, there you go. And he gets some hits on his website too. Well done. That's a real digital man there. well done, Puva. But maybe a little bit more clarity.
Can I
Like,
just say this is only ringgit financing, right, at the moment?
Okay, we started off with ringgit financing, right? We've got funders who want us to explore doing in different currencies. So the thing is, I think we want to get the ringgit financing going first, build a track record, and then after that we will look at other currencies.
Into the other currencies. Okay. And can anyone apply for this, even startups?
Yes. So it all depends on your. We will do a simple credit assessment on the borrower, and also the trade that you do, and your invoice.
The invoice, I think.
No issue.
Yeah. So if you got blue chip invoices, then you close your eye and 48 hours and it's done.
We do the verification, but you can borrow, anyone who can.
Yeah, and that sometimes banks can't do. It is this one. Yeah, they generally say that, but we've been surprised. We've seen sometimes patronizing by still not comfortable borrowers, like existing borrowers financing situation. So I think this is actually one of the things is the more types of financing sources we've got in Malaysia or in this region, as we talk as Asia Pacific, we're talking about Indonesian models next week. The better for business. Yeah, it's just one of the parts of making businesses work. Yeah, is that getting that credit side of the sheet working? Yeah.
We got some questions from the audience. So Ida says good Friday morning to you from Seremban. So welcome Ida from Seremban. But Emmanuel has a question. Says it's a little tricky to get solid credit reports for startups and newcos. How do you manage that, Puva?
So as I said, we do a combination, right? We look at we do the credit information, the credit reports. We look at the kind of trade, and the last one is we look at the strength of the customer. So I think what a lot of just like any fintech platform does, right? When you sign up, we try and get as much info from the borrower as possible. In the past, a lot of people need very detailed credit reports. Now I think we look at the credit report is one thing. If the trade is solid and your customer is solid, there must be value to that. So I think that differentiates the fintech guys to the traditional lenders.
Because you put a lot more weightage on the invoice quality than the actual credit standing of that organization. I can see that lah, and it makes sense lah. Makes sense because ultimately those companies will honor their. I mean, they should honor their invoice documents lah. I would assume lah, right? So I can see where that business model and you're not tied down to any particular sector, right? You're any sector anywhere, whether from agri to whatever, as long as it's some form of invoice financing that is required, then they can look at it, right?
Yes. So we're open to any sector. As I said, those are the three things, right? The borrower, the trade, and the customer. As long as we can verify and we can check those, we are very happy to lend to these people, to anyone who wants to go.
Yeah, and maybe more generally at a more bigger fintech, and Ravi, maybe you can add to this, right? When we look at the fintech space, it's a huge space, like you said, and there's many different verticals that ultimately will mushroom, I guess. Like you guys with invoice financing. I mean, there's different pieces that have yet to be addressed, right? And we know that just like with every other space, whether it was HR, learning, whatever, there's always going to be little pieces that people. So what when someone is thinking about fintechs and building fintechs and trying to get into this space, what do you think are the key success factors, especially here in Malaysia, because I think it's a slightly differentiated game we play here in Malaysia, right? Somewhat.
Okay, very hard to answer the question in general, right? But one of the things that I think personally is very close to my heart is getting financing solution for the real micro SMEs, right? The challenge there is these guys do really simple trades, but the quantum might be a bit smaller than what someone like us can do, right? For example, and our borrowers be keen on. So it's been quite interesting because I've been looking at the P2P platforms, and I've been looking at different solutions, and what I've seen is that some new fintech players that are coming out. There is this company that we saw recently called Jom Settle, right?
Yeah.
Very simple. They work. They get the micro SMEs and they connect to the credit card payments, and they get them to finance simple purchases like buying raw materials for doing simple trades, for restaurants, for small contractors who are doing small renovation. They can't go and get credit loans to buy, so they found a solution to use the credit cards to make those payments. And it's quite interesting because I would think that these trades, especially if you look at restaurant owners and retailers, small SMEs, the turnaround is very, very fast. So they get the funding. The funding is repaid probably within a week or so. Quite interesting. Also, another thing that we've been looking at, I don't know whether we can do it, but I'm sure a startup is going to find a solution and come and do it faster than a lot of us. Is fintech solutions for cottage industries. I think I remember a long time ago, MCMC came out with these advertisements, how digital connectivity has helped, a lot of people.
Smaller guys, yeah.
The thing is, I'm sure they need solutions, right? They need fintech solutions. And, I think it's a great time for a lot of startups to come up in this space. And I'm quite excited.
Because currently it's only the, like you said, like the payment transaction pieces are being addressed at a macro level, and of course you got the global players like Stripe and PayPal and all these other guys also there. So
But maybe
it's
just going back on that, I think that one is an interesting one. I think we've got to get some of these guys on the show as well. It's a long time to go quiet. Remember there's the whole excitement of Grameen's Bank in Bangladesh, and then there's equivalent spin-offs all over the world. How far digital they've gone, is one thing. But certainly, I know there are players in Malaysia who do that. Maybe it's time to see them. But yeah, sometimes if it's just purely government sponsored, it's difficult to succeed. Most of these things, thousands or even millions of different entrepreneurs trying different things, like Puva rightly pointed out. Which startup's going to come and solve this problem. I'm hoping for governments to figure out all these solutions. Not so easy. Enablers maybe, but not the one who's finding.
Yeah.
So
Also
again,
requires.
for
Go ahead.
it's got to be back there, but maybe more digital.
Sorry, Puva, you were saying something?
Yeah, so it'll be quite interesting to see who the startup. I mean, so if you have time, I will. Jom Settle is the name of the company. I don't know what the website was. I thought they're quite interesting. So what we'd like to do is, when we
with these guys.
So for on the Procure Here side, because the platform is so rich and there's so many different kind of trades that go through every day. We'd like to bring in some of these people into the ecosystem as well, right? So we'd like to bring. I think it's a very valuable ecosystem anyway for any fintech player to plug in.
Sure. And ultimately, I think it's going to be about that stitching together partnerships that make your ecosystem, because you can't own an ecosystem. I mean, we've seen many organizations try to own ecosystem, and you heard also SAP, Oracles, and all these guys still wanting to. But ultimately, it's the guys that stitch a partnership, a collaborative coalition of ecosystem. I think is the guy that's going to win. Girish has a quick question for you, and this is regarding small farmers with minimal credit history. So she's enjoyed the show so far. So thanks, Girish, for joining in. She's asking you, is there really...
Girish is a gentleman.
Oh, sorry.
We all know him very well. Hi, Girish.
Okay, Girish. My bad. Not looking at the photo very well. Blinded by my light. But so Girish, welcome to the show. So he's looking for what solutions you have for small farmers who need to meet large volumes orders in Malaysia.
So,
your thoughts?
Now the thing is, if these farmers have invoices, please visit Finanshere and let's look at it. But there are a lot of the smaller fintech players that actually have solutions for these smaller farmers, right? And especially if they're going to buy materials and they're going to buy simple things like fertilizers. There are a lot of these smaller solutions out there that actually cater for it. So the sometimes when there's a lot of solutions out there, the hardest thing is to go and look for it, right? But there are a lot of these solutions out there.
Yep. And Girish, my apologies. Your hair, at least you got hair, right? So he says his hair is too long, but some of us don't have much hair left, So congratulations on that, So well done to that. We've got also Dato Nalguna Lingam, who's joining us. Nalguna, who's saying good morning to everyone. I'm not sure if you guys know him, but so some of you do. Welcome to the show. And for anyone on the show, if you've got any questions to ask Puva or Ravi, now's the time to shoot them into the comment section, and we'll be glad to ask them. Before we get into some of the questions by the audience, I just want to ask on the ecosystem piece. We talked a little bit about the evolving fintech ecosystem in Malaysia, and sort of the market that is slowly but surely growing. What are your thoughts in terms of the evolution? What's happening? What's to come? What where do you see this whole space going? And you talked a little bit about some of the gaps that are out there, and you mentioned a couple of tech platforms that have some offerings but there's still some significant gaps that are out there. So what are your thoughts on the evolving system or the ecosystem? Both Puva and Ravi, would love to hear your thoughts.
I would like Ravi to. No, I think he's got a very different view.
For me, I'm sorry, I'm a little bit more of a free market kind of guy. So I was involved a long time ago, before the Asian crisis. I wrote the first financial services master plan. If you ask me, when we wrote that paper in 1997, right? That's a long time ago. Could I have imagined anything like this? Answer is absolutely no. I think, the more we got people, even for us itself, for the first time, and there's discussions going on in stage 3. Yeah, we said it's a trust business. It's high cost. It's high. You need senior partners. You need a lot of experience, etc. But somebody's just beginning to say, no, let's see how we can get this service. I mean, that's the whole start of this. This whole thing of rethinking balance sheets. How to get this high value, expensive service out there to help people. So this is the first part of even for our discussions. I think the answer is the evolution of the ecosystem is very much as long as if you have non-restrictive types of legislation, it allows it to go. It should take off. Obviously on the other side, the prudential regulations to make sure that nobody's cheating anybody, which is still always important in fintech, and obviously the money laundering and all those kind of things. It's getting the right balance, but to encourage it to take place. I don't think anyone could actually say how it's going to evolve. It's definitely going to evolve. Like I said, we started in the 4 or 5 centuries ago with the innovation of some pieces of letters of credit and so on, which made trade happen. This is just a digital version. New stuff's going to take place. I mean, it's definitely coming one way or another.
Yep. And Puva, your thoughts?
Well, I think the evolution is given. I think it's happening as we speak.
Sure. Yeah.
I wouldn't dare, even try to chart or try to analyze where it's going to go. But what we want to do at Privasia is we actually want to be part of the evolution, right? So that's why I think if you look at our products like Procure Here and Finanshere, we keep adding new features, right? I think if we stop, we're going to, be old, right? We're going to be dinosaurs. Now the thing is, I think what we're trying to do is to get as close to the people as possible. A lot of solutions out there, there's no stickiness, or the approach seems very, very long. The closer we get to the customer, the better we know him, the more insights we have. We want our offerings to be as instinctive as possible. That's all we can plan for. But the evolution, I think, is happening as we speak. Some guy's got an idea this morning and he's working on it already.
So we're getting a couple of questions, but I guess the you mentioned before, how do people reach you is through your website, right? The best way to reach you is through this website, right? Your website. Is that
www.finanshere.com.
Finanshere.com, right? So so that's the best way to reach you. We've got a couple of questions from folks. So we've got, of course, Dato is saying good effort, Puva and Roshan. Somehow you're discluded, Ravi, but that's okay. We'll get to Shahrul. Shahrul says, are government regulatory bodies proactive with fintech companies, especially fintech being serious competitors to traditional financial institution, or are they far off the ball? Your thoughts?
Okay, I'm okay. I think a lot of them are proactive. A lot of them are actually helping, trying to create avenues like sandboxes, for example, by Mostly and Bank Negara, right? They both got their sandboxes. They're trying to create solutions. A lot of them now have given opportunity to fintech players to offer even government solutions, where I think there could be a challenge, especially companies like ours, as we build solutions and we build platforms and databases. It's all very intangible, right? The thing is, that's why I like the whole title of the show, right? Rethinking balance sheets. We don't hold on to it in the balance sheets for that long. Right. So I hope the accounting bodies can all take a look at this.
And
Ravi, I think you have a perspective on this also, right?
Right.
Just to share on this, I think you're talking about regulatory bodies. I mean, I know 25 years ago, I was heavily involved in stuff like that, doing all this stuff. I think one of the things, without getting the show into too complex, I think that was been a criticism of the show. But since the question's been asked, let's try to answer it. And if anybody in the regulator, I think a lot of things are now coming back a full circle. There's a balance, in going forward is, we're going to have a period where there's a lot of cash out there.
Yes.
Yeah, and high risk of inflation, right? Government bodies, policymakers have to really start thinking back on the supply side. How do we make the supply to come on? That means if it's just like, fintech suppliers to come on, innovation, etc., they really need to. The challenge, I think, for a country like Malaysia, where you got state-owned enterprises, then the government is in business. So how do you actually get that? And that's not a question we could even answer in, a 2 month
Sure.
probably.
Yeah.
These are just very broadly the big issues that somebody's going to start thinking about.
And it's worth asking, I guess. Sharil, Sharil says good morning. Some good insights on supply chain financing, and Sharil adds a great description. Finanshere is here to try to get as close to customers as you possibly can. So kudos to you on that. Emmanuel comes back with another question. Still learning, so please excuse my ignorance, but how is the ratio of financing determined? Is it based on the credit report or potential success of partnerships? Puva?
So I think, I would love to, take Emmanuel's questions, but I don't know whether we have enough time. So Emmanuel, if you can please help log in to finanshere.com, and, we will reach out to you to, whatever questions you have, let's address it there, because there's no one answer for all, right? It's different for different kind of trades. So Emmanuel, please reach out to us.
Okay, so there is some customization, that you do, right? Different sort of financing for different trades, somewhat, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
So
which is good because traditional banks tend to have certain no-go
standards.
They want to do very simple. You don't make the ratio, you don't get the financing.
Yep. So there's certain standards,
that's
and
a differentiation in the product, which I could start. I seem to discern from what Puva has been telling us.
Yep. And so good. So Girish comes back. Puva, what do you think is the single policy change Malaysian government can do now to encourage ventures like Finanshere to thrive and grow faster? Ooh, okay. Spicy question.
Tough. The problem is, if I say there are many changes that can happen, right? So I think if I say any single one is going to be really unfair. But to think about it, we need to figure out some of the. So okay, I don't want to say policy change, right? I think maybe if we can get more clarification on some of the reasons behind certain policies, that would help startups and so, for example, banking regulations, right? Sometimes there's an issue with using SaaS or cloud-based products. It must be enterprise, for example. I think those discussions need to have, because it's if you want to move on and you evolve, the faster we have these discussions, the faster people can come out with innovations. Second is some of these things, how we still adhere to the governance, but sometimes you can't take everything word for word lah. Time has evolved. Some of these, like accounting standards, have been around for so many years, right? I don't know whether it works now. So we need to have those discussions. I'm not saying it needs to change, but it needs the gap of understanding needs to be narrowed down.
Got it.
And
Ravi,
I think one of the challenges for any regulators, and I've been in the side of the regulators, I think a lot of stuff happens very fast. So I empathize, there's a lot of criticism, but maybe it's not fair because not everybody can know everything. But perhaps sometimes you got to take some people from outside, from industry, into the regulatory bodies. That would really help that conversation that Puva is talking about. Maybe that's something they could actually consider, because you get the communication right, then a lot of things can begin to fall in place. But if like I said, a lot of criticism, but it's not fair because, like I said, you started from you got recruited some time ago. You started there, you've gone up to the ranks, but things are changing. You can't be expected to know everything.
Right.
Maybe
So let me exactly. Nico, we'll talk about Nico in a bit. Puva, just to close out, times it's been an engaging conversation, and 45 minutes just went by like that. But any final thoughts that you want to share with us as we wrap up this conversation?
So the thing is, I think it's great to see a lot of the new new products that are out there. I mentioned one was Jom Central. There's things like Finanshere and all. It's quite interesting to actually see what is out there. I think a lot of the question just now is how do we find something, right? It'll be great if more of these small players get a chance to speak on events like this, right? Platforms like this. The whole thing is to get as much of this out to the market, and if there's any way that Privasia can work with Nicole to help get some of these people out, we would love to try at it.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to close out, Ravi, we'll share a little bit about Nicole, but I mean, Ravi, your sort of final thoughts and maybe some key takeaways as you pondered some of the insights from Puva and some of the audience.
Yeah, what I like is, I think where this shows probably we can summarize is that there's definitely going to be diversity. And the one that Puva's offering is very exciting is that it's tied to the procurement system, and the actual procurement, which is unique. And that's, again, one way of doing it. I'm sure there are many more as we call in more guests onto this show. We're going to hear a lot more. I think we've got an exciting show next week from the leading player in Indonesia. We do want to keep this as not just purely Malaysian focus, but in an Asian focus. So I think we will see more and more stuff out there. I think I read in LinkedIn there is a Fintech association been formed, and a lady has been appointed as its first leader. On that note, perhaps those are the kind of people we should actually get onto the show. We've always said on the credit side of the balance sheet, the Fintech is the people that we really wanted to get onto this show. Thanks, Puva. I mean, it's the first of it. I'm sure we're going to learn a lot more, and this is the stuff that people are really interested to know, especially in this crisis. Yeah, I think most people know to go to a bank and talk to your banker. This is where it's going to get a really new information out there to the market.
Fantastic. And thanks everyone. And final plug on Nicole.app. If you haven't got a hold of it, there's a special community there. So Nicole works, has a closed community, has private communities, also have public communities. And one is the community called Rethinking Balance Sheets, where you get to engage directly with us, talk about the questions that have been posed, and watch different content related to the balance sheet. But there's also communities like HR community, legal community, a whole bunch of other communities there that you can engage and be part of. So Nicole.app, that's the website. Go ahead and check out Nicole, which is a learning experience platform where, just like Netflix, you will get a whole bunch of things that is curated, personalized to you based on artificial intelligence. So that's our show for today. Thank you guys. Really appreciate the time. And I see a couple of thumbs up coming from our audiences. Coming in. So thank you everyone. Thanks for tuning in. We're going to be back, I think, Ravi, next week, same time, same place. If I'm not mistaken. Friday, 10 a.m. Get your coffee and let's have fun together, rethinking balance sheets and understanding that. So with that, goodbye everyone, and we look forward to seeing you guys. Puva, thank you so much for the show.
Thank you.
Ravi, all the best. Okay, bye-bye.